I certainly have no place to speak to anybody about like how they're choosing to reblog or set things up because again, me and my 58 never talk to me and my 58 Tumblr side blogs ever again kind of thing. Like, I'm not in any position to judge, but yeah, it's like figuring out how you can handle social media that you use in a way that is going to be healthy for you is also something that's important to like, figure it out and set your boundaries and everything like that. I'm generally speaking anti-VPN, but if I were someplace that had porn bans like at a, or ID verification at a national level or whatever, yeah, I would be using a VPN. Like the same reason that like when people travel to China, it's like, yeah, using a VPN, you just get past the fucking firewall. Like, it sucks being old enough to remember when the internet didn't suck this way. It sucked in completely different ways. I'm anti-VPN because it's not actually a privacy tool. And that's the thing is people think that they are privacy tools and they are not. Also, the only VPNs I ever recommend are the ones that are recommended by privacyguides.org or .com or whatever. I'll link it, but I'll bring up the site. I ended up talking about this some on Tumblr last week. But like, yeah, one of the taglines on my blog is I know fuck all about VPNs. I actually don't know very much about VPNs, and that's intentional. Because the only thing that I find it useful for is obfuscating your location, and that's not something that I generally speaking have to do. And if I'm obfuscating my location, I would much rather do actual traffic anonymization, which VPNs absolutely do not do. But people think that they are a privacy tool. No, they are a tool for making sure that the information that your ISP sees is not like clear text of what you're doing, but it is agreeing that basically it's shifting the responsibility or the risk from your ISP to your VPN. And there are more privacy-focused VPNs out there. Privacy Guides is a site run by maniacs for maniacs, and they recommend various privacy tools. They recommend exactly 3 VPNs, and this is part of what I ended up. Yes, VPNs do not provide anonymity. I like that they have this in a red box right at the top. Yes, it is definitely a site by maniacs for maniacs. And here's the other thing: is like they'll warn you, like specifically, like, okay, cool, this doesn't do port forwarding, or this one only has partial support for port forwarding. But this was kind of the thing that came up when I was talking about 404 media. The thing is, like, a lot of the people who are looking for privacy tools and things like that are not aware of what they're actually looking for. So they go get a VPN because they've heard that it's, good for privacy. And it's like, well, yeah, but if you're looking at NordVPN is perfectly willing to sell your data and share your data with other people. That is not a privacy-focused tool, and that is actually something that can be a pretty big risk. That's why privacy guides. So, and, it's, email services. Like, that's one where it's like, cool, here are the providers that we recommend, and here's why, and here's how you can pay for them in different methods and things like that. Search engines, these are the security-focused search engines or the privacy-focused search engines. Desktop browsers, cool, Mullvad, Firefox, and it has suggestions for how to configure stuff as well, to make things more private. So, Brave, let's see, what are their warnings? Referral code for downloads, filter lists. Yeah, and let's see, software. Let's see if they have operating system recommendations. Let's see what their Office Suite recommendations are. LibreOffice, OnlyOffice. Yeah, I'm not at all surprised that Privacy Guides is not interested in Microsoft Office. So, but yeah, traditional distros of Linux. Yeah, I get. See, so this is part of why I am cautious about recommending certain things. Like, I will link people to VPN and email information on privacy guides. I will not link them to the OS recommendations because this is going to be beyond most like casual users. So just password managers. Have we got Bitwarden here? Let's see. Yep, my baby. Love my Bitwarden. Do we have authenticators? Do they recommend the Bitwarden authenticator? I don't know. Privacy Guides is really, really helpful, and it is made by people who are privacy obsessed and like will get into like really, really deep detail. Oh, there we go, MFA. Yeah. So these are the recommendations from them. I still recommend Bitwarden because Bitwarden's really fucking easy to use. Don't use just the built-in Firefox one. I know I'm a complete fucking grind about this, but let me see. We will go to the Bitwarden link because I do have a link about this, and I did update this to explain a little more about Authenticator, but also here is my recipe for how to use Bitwarden. So it is how to set up Bitwarden written like a cooking recipe. So, and also yes, I know fuck all about VPNs. But yeah, so this just is like kind of a step-by-step on how to set up Bitwarden, like with the easiest possible onboarding. And you can import and export passwords. You don't need to do everything all at once. It's extremely simple to use. I love that you can install it across multiple devices, and as many times as you want. I think it's the only video that I have up on the actual video channel for this project is Bitwarden talking about Bitwarden. But yeah, there are many reasons that I don't like browser-only password managers, and it's just people see setting up a proper password manager as something that's like intimidating and like concerning and threatening and scary and everything like that. And once you do it, everything is so much easier with using it that like you feel silly for not having done it before. One of the major differences that you're going to see in between like using the Firefox built-in password manager and a password manager like Bitwarden, where you can install the extension in your browser and also can install the application, is simply using apps on your phone. I use Bitwarden to keep my banking password. That means that I can use my banking password on my phone really easily without having to use the mobile site, and instead I can use the application if I need to for any reason or anything like that. It makes things much, much easier. Or if I'm using like an application from my doctor's office or something like that on my phone. And it is definitely frustrating that, there are all of these things that we have to deal with, but the fact that like it becomes simpler when you've got like the proper tools set up, like makes it a lot less frustrating. No, fucking people who try to set you up with KeePass they're friends, but they're engineers. Sorry, this is Linux Brain. So, like KeePass is one of the, like is KeePass one of the, I can't remember if KeePass is one of the Linux Brain ones. Petty, but the large bastard has one of the fucking Linux Brain password managers where it's like, yeah, of course this is incredibly secure because it's not set up to be user friendly. And that's the other reason that I really recommend Bitwarden over a lot of other things, is that like it's so comparatively easy to use that like it lowers the barrier of entry for people who like want to use password managers. A lot of older password managers, especially because they were created by people who were like security obsessed before it was kind of normal to be security obsessed, are like I said again, for maniacs by maniacs. They are a lot harder to use than more modern password managers. Bitwarden is exceptionally simple to use. And the other thing that I know I talked about at one point, but I will always talk about it again, don't start using a password manager and think that you have to immediately get all of your passwords into it. Make yourself a list of like 3 to 5, or I think I say 5 to 8 of the passwords that you use all the time. Get those in your password manager, and then as you log into other things, start migrating them, which will also give you the opportunity to like update your password. But the advantages of using something like Bitwarden as opposed to like the Firefox password manager is the notes section, where you're able to like save things like your security answers, which means that you can make up different security answers so that you don't have to rely on the same like pool of questions and answers. So because your security answers have almost certainly been exposed in a breach, so if you're using the same ones that you were using 10 years ago, it's a risk. If you're using the same ones now that you're using in 10 years, it's a massive risk. So your high school mascot wasn't the Bulldogs, it was the unicorns, but only when you're filling it out for this one website. The next one, it's the fairies. The next one, it's the walruses. Like, you should have different answers for those, but you can't do that in a browser-only password manager because it's just in the browser. It doesn't give you a good comprehensive notes section. The other really nice thing that I like about Bitwarden and working with the Bitwarden Authenticator, so this is a new nice thing that I like about it, is that if you have the Bitwarden Authenticator installed, or actually you can use this with other authenticators as well, you can sync your authenticators with it and have it save for the Bitwarden authenticator specifically. You can have it sync your authenticator to your password manager. So if you lose the device that has your authenticator on it, it doesn't matter. You can still have all of the authenticator passkeys so that you can set those accounts up again without having to worry about losing access. It makes the use of an authenticator a lot safer, a lot less risky. I know I rant about this a lot. So, okay, and with the password manager, the password for your password manager, this is the thing that scares everybody, and I completely understand it because, it is something to definitely worry about. But two things about it. Number one, if you lose the password to your password manager, you're pretty much still okay. The scary thing is you don't want to lose the password manager to your, or the password to your authenticator. If you lose the password to your password manager, you can still use whatever recovery accounts you had set up otherwise to reset the passwords for those accounts. So that's fine. It'll be a pain in the ass if it happens, but it's probably not going to happen. The second thing is, like Fluffy said, this is one where unless you have a severe risk of like living with somebody who's an abuser, you are actually okay for your password manager to write it down and put it someplace safe. The thing that I always say is write it down and put it in your underwear drawer. That's just a stand-in for wherever it's going to be safe and that people aren't going to go looking for it. Don't put it on a Post-it note on the bottom of your keyboard. Don't write it in the back of a notebook that you keep on your desk all the time. But the other thing about it is you're going to be entering this password all the time, and it should be the only password you're entering all the time, so it should be something that you're going to end up remembering pretty well. Let's see, this is, I don't know if that's visible. Okay, yeah, this little key here is a password manager that I used to use for work at Gary's business, so I haven't used it regularly since 2024. I had to log into it the other day. I was like, I have forgotten my password for the password manager. Oh no. And because it's a business password manager, I would have been able to get access to it by like having somebody else who is an admin on it reset it. But I sat there, I didn't remember it for a few minutes. I was like trying to figure out how to get in. And then it came back to me because the way that I had the password set up for that was a song that was one of my favorite songs the year that I created the password for it. And had been released that year. So I was like, that's right. That was the song that I was using all the time. So I just typed in a couple of initialisms from the song. So, it's like, let's say you've got the chorus. The chorus has 4 lines. Each line is maybe like 8 to 10 words or something like that. It's the first letter of each word, any punctuation that might be included in there, and then like the year that it came out. So, like if it was Tom Petty's Last Dance with Mary Jane, there's pigeons now in Market Square. She's standing in her underwear. TPIMSSSHU 92 would be the password, maybe with a comma in there or something like that. So, and yes, you can, for all of these password managers, actually what you can do is you can export them to a file on your computer, and you would then need to have like 7-zip or something set up so that you could create that as an encrypted file, and then you could password protect that file and keep it on your machine. That's maybe a little bit of overkill. It's really hard to tell what level of like paranoia and security is overkill and is just like perfectly reasonable. I'm not good at gauging that. Don't be too worried about it. Figure out a password that is going to be a password that you remember really easily, and think about your favorite line from a movie, your favorite lyric from a song, a quote that you say all the time with your friends or family or something like that. Yeah, that was the example that I used last time was Ich habe eine Krankenwagen in meiner Tasche, was a line that I used to always like shout at my friends in high school. And that would be a great example of something that like IHEKWEMT. Like, okay, so that's 8 characters plus like maybe add in a year, that gets you to 10 characters, add in an exclamation point or something like that, that's 11 characters, and there you go. The correct horse battery staple thing, so you can also get a lot of like entropy to your password by using the longer like sets of words like that. My deal is it's usually worthwhile to use like less common words. So, instead of like, red triangle plant or something like that, it would maybe be like, fuchsia octahedron monstera or something. You use slightly less common words that are not in the top 10,000. there are lots of arguments for like how much you actually need to be fucking paranoid about that kind of thing. But basically, like, the longer your password is, the more secure it is. Lots of people, however, won't let you enter passwords that are more than like 16 characters, which is very fucking frustrating. So you need to introduce entropy by adding, exclamation points and numbers, special characters and numbers and things like that in capital and lowercase, which is why using initialisms tends to be very simple. And especially if you're using initialism for like a song that you listen to all the time, or your favorite line from a play or something like that, that can be really, really helpful because, you sit there, you're like worried that you're forgetting your password, and it's like, what's my password? Okay. It was a song. Okay, what songs do I like? That gets a lot easier to get back to your password. And again, that is one where, like, the password to your password manager is one that it is okay to write down and put in a secure place as long as you are not at risk of somebody, like, in your house stealing your password, because it's exceptionally unlikely that somebody outside of your house is going to break into your house to steal the password to your password manager. So, but I do definitely understand that paranoia. That is the thing that most people are the most concerned about with using an actual password manager. The thing that I would say about using a password manager that's in the browser is it really limits you to only being able to access the passwords when you are using that browser. So the example that I use for a lot of things like this is if you are traveling, you're using your computer, and, your computer flies out of the car window or something like that and shatters into a million pieces on the road. How do you get into your bank password? How do you get into your email address password? Do you log into a browser profile on somebody else's computer? If you do that, do you remember to log out? If you need to, like, say, go to a library and use their computer to do something, are you able to install that browser, and do you want to log into your browser account on that computer? That's the reason that, like, the other thing about having a password manager like Bitwarden or something like that is like, okay, cool. Say you do have to go use a computer at the library, which is a, pain in the butt or whatever, but you're probably not going to be able to install Firefox on that if it already isn't there. You're not necessarily going to want to log into a personal account on that, but you will be able to, if you have your phone in your pocket and you've got Bitwarden on it, log into the app on your phone, get the password from your phone, and type it in on the computer. So, yeah, the portability of Bitwarden is really, really incredible. Yeah, not, and the other thing about it is like, okay, cool. Even if you do carry a flash drive with a Firefox on it, like there's a decent chance that, like, okay, cool. Are the USB ports on the computer going to be accessible? Like a lot of cases these days, like maybe not. I mean, I will say the thing is, I just always carry, I always carry at least two phones with Firefox on them, so I'm never too far away from having Firefox on my person if it's necessary. Yeah, I don't know. And a lot of these scenarios are unlikely. I personally know somebody who was only able to use Tumblr from a specific iPad because they had set up 2FA on their Tumblr, and the device that had the authenticator on it literally fell into the ocean. And so their primary Tumblr, which had been their primary social media for years, and they had built up like a lot of business stuff related to, was only accessible through one device that was like one restart away from locking them out. And because they had it set up with an authenticator, they couldn't work with like staff or anything like that to get a password reset. So that's one of those things where I'm like, this is my example of like the scariest possible way this kind of thing could happen. What do you do to prevent that from happening? And the way that you avoid things like that happening is you become like device and login agnostic. You make sure that you have multiple ways to get into things. So this is the other great thing about a password manager like Bitwarden. I have 2FA set up on Tumblr. I also have all of my authenticator keys, my recovery keys in Bitwarden. So like I've got the authentication, and that's great. That means that people are not going to be able to log into my account if like a password gets leaked or something like that. But also, if I get locked out of my authentication method, I have recovery keys saved elsewhere, someplace that is accessible not only through the same method. So that's the deal, is like, it's the Swiss cheese method. So, there's maybe a little gap in each method, but you layer things to the point that you should be covered. You should always have a way to get back into things. So, you've got a backup recovery method. you've got an authenticator set up, and you've got your authenticator recovery key saved someplace. You've got your, password saved in a secure location. Like, it's just, like, I'm aware that I am probably more paranoid and more aggressive about this than most people are. But I also like have seen what happens when people aren't paranoid and aggressive about this, and I just want them to be okay. So I just want people to use something, and that's again why I recommend Bitwarden so much, is just because it really is the kind of thing that like I've set up multiple people who are non-technical to use it as well, where like yes, this becomes something that can become very, very comfortable and easy to use. So that's probably enough ranting about Bitwarden for me for today. But let's see. I remember being on a road trip to a friend's wedding and an online game you were playing got suspicious of you logging in from the hotel room and made you reset the password. Yeah. Yeah. And so that's the other thing that becomes so much easier when like you do have a password manager. So it's like, yeah, you don't have to remember a new password. You're playing the online game and you paste the password in from your password manager, which has generated it from you. You save it. You never have to worry about remembering it. Like, and yeah, the KeyPass. I think KeyPass is one of the ones that's relatively user unfriendly. Again, Bitwarden, and for a lot of these, even the ones that are more user friendly, like the limitation of only being able to install it on one or two devices is infuriating. I hate that. I hate that. You should be able to have your password manager in like 5 million places. You should be able to, if you want, put like a password manager extension that you can log into on literally every computer you interact with. Not just computers that you use, but interact with if you want to. Like, and so the idea of like, oh, well, you can only have it installed on one computer as an application, and then you can have it like installed on your phone as an application. It's like, no, unacceptable. No. So the portability is like a huge, huge deal. And that's what is really fantastic about Bitwarden, is it's so portable. It's got so many options for you, because it's like, yeah. And on top of all of that, by the way, I haven't mentioned that if your entire bag of technology falls out of the window or into the ocean or something like that, the other really great thing about Bitwarden is it has an online accessible site. You can go to the website and log into your vault from the website, so you don't even need the extension installed or an application installed. You can literally just log into your vault on the website and have it accessible no matter what browser you're in. So, and I have definitely used that at things like, the example that I've used a couple times too has been like a hotel business center or something like that. I've used at like the hotel computers when I've been at like conferences and things like that. I have used that to like print out a boarding pass and go access my email. So, yeah, it's handy, because I'm certainly not going to be installing a password manager extension on the hotel computer, but I do need to access their printer. So yeah, not the brain space to not having to devote to passwords, to not having to think about creating passwords, like, and I talked about it a little bit the other day, where it's like, yeah, I log into like 300 Microsoft accounts because I do so for work. I can't survive without a password manager. And same deal with like a ton of other stuff. Like, not only do I have 58 side blogs on Tumblr, I have 8 Tumblr blogs, like separate logins for them. I have probably 10, maybe 15 Gmail accounts. I have probably a similar number of Proton accounts and things like that. And so it's just like, I have too much, too much going on. So I need to have it managed for me, because I'm certainly not going to manage it myself. But yeah, I just really like password managers.